Hello, you. Did I ever tell you that when I lived in Washington, D.C., I used to joke that I was going to write a book called Everyone's Lonely in D.C.? The problem was every time I said that to someone, they would say, "Write the book, I'm lonely." And they weren't kidding. They would usually follow that up with stories of how they'd eaten dinner over the sink by themselves, or wandered around the mall alone, or met up with someone they later regretted just because they wanted to stop feeling lonely for a few hours. I felt really lonely when I first moved there too. In fact, I was so lonely I made banana bread for the baristas at Starbucks because I didn't have anyone else to bake banana bread for. Let me explain. I had gone in one time to do my Christmas cards, and so the barista put my name on the cup like they normally do. And when I came in the next night, I walked in and the barista said, "Heather!" And I thought, oh, somebody knows who I am. And it meant so much to me that I started loitering and hanging out. Within a couple weeks, I had made banana bread for the baristas before I realized that Starbucks actually sells banana bread. And then after a while, I started getting to know some of the regulars, and after that, I invited them over for dinner, and then I was grateful that I had gotten lonely enough to make friends with crazy strangers that I met at Starbucks. Loneliness is an interesting thing. In fact, the truth of it is all of us have experienced loneliness. It's the great sort of undercover equalizer because it isn't affected by culture or education or economic status. Even though we act like it's embarrassing to admit that we're lonely, all of us have been there. And the thing is, it doesn't have as much to do with the number of people around us. I can be on a walk by myself or taking a drive alone and feel totally fine, and yet at the same time, I could sit in a room that's packed out full of people and feel painfully lonely. When Albanians miss someone, they say, "Po ndjej tënde," and it means, "I feel your absence." And I think that loneliness is less about being physically by yourself, although that can affect it, but it's more about feeling the absence of someone close to us. Because when someone is close to us, they make us feel listened to and understood. They make us feel like we matter. And when you're feeling lonely, it doesn't matter if you're missing someone in particular, a particular friend or a parent or a relative or someone you're attracted to, or if you just have this general vague sense of feeling the absence of someone to connect with. Sometimes we just feel left out or left alone or left behind when we wish we weren't. The thing about loneliness is it makes us feel as if something's a little off, like something's not right. If belonging has to do with feeling known and feeling valued and feeling safe, then loneliness is somehow that ache that comes when you're feeling the absence of all three. Well, it's kind of like bananas. They're all connected, and when one gets separated, then it knows that there's a piece of it that's been left behind. It's alone, and it's lonely. And it's a silly example, but sometimes we feel like the lone banana. And one of the reasons that I think that it's important to consider loneliness is because what we believe about the world affects things like loneliness. And what we believe about loneliness affects how we think about ourselves. Is loneliness a reflection of who I am? Is there something wrong with me? Or is loneliness a reflection of all of us? What does it say about all of mankind if we experience loneliness, even if we're in a room that's filled with people? What is it that causes us to be lonely? What do you think? What does loneliness have to say about our place in the universe? What do you believe about loneliness? I think it's an interesting idea and definitely one of our core concepts to think about as we're trying to decide, again, what is it that you believe about the world? Because again, what you believe about loneliness, about mattering, about purpose, about belonging affects how you feel about yourself and how you feel about others, and it affects your behavior and your actions, and it affects the behavior and the actions of others what they believe affects how they treat you. So it's an important thing. Loneliness is difficult, but we've all been there. And the important thing about it is not so much that we go through it, but that we allow going through it to teach us something about the fabric of the universe and what's going on behind it all. So I hope you're not lonely. If you are, I'm sending you a big hug, and I hope you have a great evening, and I'll look forward to seeing you on Friday. Love you.